Period. End of story. The Seahawks are champions. They know how to win on the road. Your crowd noise and your crowd pressure, it means very little, if anything, to them. When it comes to the elements, they play in the Pacific Northwest. Oh yeah, known for its beautiful, easy weather. I mean, come on. It's not going to affect anything. The weather conditions do not give any one team an advantage. Both teams have to play in the exact same conditions. It's going to make it harder for both teams. And that may be the only thing that gives the T-Wolves a little bit of an advantage from it, because their best versus our best, I don't think there shouldn't be any question. Their best wins out against our best. But less than our best versus less than their best, we might have a chance. So that's all it's going to make for a difference. Please don't put any more stock into it than that. But as far as, I was looking at all the numbers. I've been taking a long time on this, so I don't want to get, too long-winded. But I looked at all of the team statistics for the entire season, not just for, the past month or whatever. I looked at the end of the season statistics, both individual and team, top to bottom, multiple times this week. And when it comes down to the four basic elements of football, running the ball, passing the ball, stopping the run, and stopping the pass, the Seattle Seahawks are better than the Minnesota Vikings at all four of those things. Significantly better, as a matter of fact. The Seahawks defense is way better at stopping the pass than our defense is, and the Seahawks defense is way better at stopping the run than our defense is. The only thing, surprisingly, everybody's talked about how great our defense is and stuff all year, and they've been very, very, very good. But our defense ranks right around 15th approximately in rushing yards allowed, and right around 15th approximately in passing yards allowed. We are middle of the pack defense at stopping the run and stopping the pass. We're middle of the pack at getting interceptions, or we're in the bottom half of the pack at getting interceptions and fumble recoveries, forcing turnovers. We're bottom half there. The only one I don't recall is sacks. We may be in the top half, firmly in the top half, like top 10 for sacks. That is possible. But the only defensive team statistic, outside of the possibility of sacks, like I said, that I don't recall at the moment, that the Vikings are any good at all, is points allowed. Which, don't get me wrong, ultimately that's the most important statistic by far. But they're giving up a lot of yards. Their defense is not lights out, shut them down, can't move the ball on us, dominate the game. No, our defense is very much bend, field goal. Bend, punt. Bend, field goal. That's what our defense is very much like. And I don't think that's going to bode well for success against Seattle. One of the only teams to allow less points than the Vikings all year, the Seahawks. They've allowed the least amount of points in all of football over the entire season. They're top 4 against the pass. They're top 4 against the run. They're top 2 overall defense. They're top 3 running the ball. They're really freaking good. And since we're focusing on just the head-to-head of it, if you really want to dig deep and find where are the Vikings better, what areas, what aspects of football are the Vikings better at than the Seahawks, there are one or two. Sacking the quarterback might be one. We might be a little better at sacking the quarterback than they are. That's the one team stat that escapes me at the moment. But the one that I do know for a fact we're without a doubt better at is protecting our quarterback. That's right. The the running, elusive, oh my gosh, Russell Wilson, who, by the way, became the first quarterback ever to pass for over 4,000 yards, run for over 500 yards, and pass for 30 or more touchdowns in the same season. That's right, Cam Newton didn't do that this year. Everybody's unanimous MVP because my team won the most amount of games, and I'm the only guy on offense whose name you know, so I must be the MVP of the league. Again, this is where we can look at stats. Just real quick, getting sidetracked with this. You look at the Panthers stats, Cam Newton stats, they're terrible for yards. Terrible for yards. They have one of the worst passing attacks in all of football, and one of the lowest overall offenses in all of football. They're bad. They're mediocre to bad. But where the one area where they're good, they've scored the most points of anyone in football. Well, how do you score a lot of points if you can't move the football? Oh, you've got an amazing defense who's always giving you a short field and creating turnovers. You only got to move the ball 30, 40 yards to get points. You don't have to move it 80 yards. Oh, yeah, that makes total freaking sense, doesn't it? But that's the guy everyone wants to hand the MVP trophy to, because it's a shortcut to thinking, oh, his team had the best record and he's the best player on the team. No, he's the best offensive player on the team. The best players on the Carolina Panthers are their two defensive player of the year candidates, Luke Kuechly, who should win it at linebacker, and then new Richard Sherman, Darrelle Revis shutdown corner, Josh Norman. They should finish the voting in that order, 1 and 2. Cam Newton should be somewhere between 3 and 5 in the MVP votings. Russell Wilson has every bit as much of a claim to it this year as Cam Newton does. Andy Dalton would have had he not been injured. Carson Palmer and Tom Brady have done way more from a quarterback position than Cam Newton has this year. Cam Newton has like the third worst completion percentage of any starting quarterback in the whole league this whole year. Colin Kaepernick completed a higher percentage of his passes than Cam Newton did this year. That's pathetic. Cam Newton is not your MVP. But back to the Vikings keys quick. We can sack the quarterback because Russell Wilson has been sacked 46 times this year. Aaron Rodgers has been sacked 47, and the person who has been sacked the most has been sacked 51 times. Russell Wilson is tied for third most being sacked in all the league. Well, how can that be? He's such a great runner with the football, and he's such a good, quick, smart decision maker when throwing the football. All those things are true. So how can that be? Is their offensive line that bad? Well, yes and no. Their offensive line is that bad in pass protection. But they can pass protect. They pass protected great when they kicked the Vikings' butt a couple weeks ago, and the Vikings have a great pass rush. Granted, they had some injuries at the time, but that wasn't the excuse. The reason is the Vikings tend to win the pass rush on the front four from just beating their head-to-head matchups, just a straight go, nothing fancy, everybody take a straight angle to the quarterback. That does not work at all. That plays into the strengths of Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks. If you watch the St. Louis Rams game, where the Rams were one of the only teams to beat the Seahawks here recently, and they did it 2 weeks ago in Seattle, they rushed the crap out of Russell Wilson. They got to him. They sacked him plenty of times, as many teams had this year. How did they do it? Well, we know they have a great defensive line, but they didn't just send them all at him and win your matchups and get there and tackle him. Schematically, they had the perfect strategy to counter his skill set, and that's stunts and loops. You stunt and slant your defensive ends in hard, so they're hitting that gap in between the tackle and the guard, eating up 2 blocks, not taking that outside move. Then you take a very athletic, explosively quick and fast defensive tackle like Sharif Floyd, or a defensive end who can play defensive tackle like B-Rob, and you loop him out around the defensive end that's coming in. That way, you've got a guy going in to get the quarterback, and you've also got a guy pursuing out, shadowing him, spying him, able to keep him contained and defend him while he is extending the play. It is really simple, effective stuff. But that is how you get a pass rush on the Seahawks and Russell Wilson. And if you get a pass rush on Russell Wilson and can consistently provide pressure and sack him, which the numbers show, that's a weakness of theirs. That's something you need to do to win this game. If Russell Wilson is not sacked at least 2 to 4 times, pressured, hurried at least 8 to 15 times, Vikings have no chance. If they can do that and apply that pressure when the Seahawks have the ball, they've got then I like their chances against this offense, even with, and especially with, I should say, beast mode Marshawn Lynch being back. He has been out for several months, much to the dismay of me, a fantasy football owner of his. But he practiced fully here this week. He is going to be totally good to go. A lot of people think that's, even less a chance for the Vikings. I actually think it's a little bit more of a chance for the Vikings because the Seahawks offense has been great without him. Better without him this year. Not compared to previous seasons, but this season when they had Marshawn to this season when they didn't have Marshawn, Seahawks team and offense is way better, has been way better without him. And so having him back is going to change some things. It's going to change the play calling offensively for the Seahawks. They're going to not call the same plays that they were calling, or they're not going to call it the same way they would if he wasn't out there. So you're going to see that could work against the Seahawks. And also his personality and his character, there has been talk, about that was a problem of, is it Marshawn's team or is it Russell's team? And everyone wants it to be Russell's team, but Russell's a wuss and, or does things a certain way that's not cool and not likable by some. And Marshawn is a detractor, and trying to stir that part. And so you might also get some of their team cohesiveness and chemistry also affected, all of which would be of great help to the Minnesota Vikings because the Vikings are going to need everything to go right. They need to run the ball because that's who they are. They need to stop the run because that's who the Seahawks are. We can't be turning the ball over. Both of these teams are almost identical when it comes to turnovers on the season. Special teams are going to have to play good, if not, maybe score a touchdown. Time of possession, you're going to want to control the pace and tempo of the game and have your guys fresh. Play calling, both offensively and defensively, we cannot afford mistakes. The refs cannot tie both of our hands behind our back and grab the switch on us like they did the last time we played Seattle and like they did the first time we played the Packers. And then as healthy as we can be, getting Linval back would be great. Keeping the other guys we got that are dinged up or coming back healthy, Anthony Barr, Harrison Smith, Adrian Peterson, and the rest. It's going to take all of those things for the Vikings to win. So basically the Vikings are dead. This is the last week of the season. However, there is a 0.01 to maybe 10% chance that they could win. And those are all the things that are going to need to happen in order for that to happen. All right, so boom, we're done with Purple Vein. Holy cow, we're not even done with NFL football talk yet. We're at 2 hours. So much to discuss yet. It's going to be a super fast, man, I'm going to be speed talking here the whole rest of the show, but whatever. I got no deadline for once tonight, and I've been having to hurry and cut things out the last several weeks, so we're going all in, balls deep, all night here. Okay. So, let's, crap, I don't know if that's going to work either. Man, I think I messed up my show. We might be on part 2 here of the show. That might have been part 1, and this is officially part 2. I apologize. I'm not a computer expert, obviously, and I just proved that right now. But let's take a quick look. Boy, Freudian slip there? Maybe. Let's take a quick look at the final week's games in the NFL last week, and then we'll look at the playoffs, give our playoff predictions, try and get through everything here as quick as possible. Just not going my way today. All right, so we had the Saints. Oh, by the way, if you're keeping track at home, which I know you are, I got 12 of the 16 games picked correctly, winners-wise, in this final week of the season. We had the Saints beating the Falcons in Atlanta 20-17. We had, and the Saints, it sounds like they will be keeping Sean Payton unless somebody makes a trade offer for him. there's the news there. Jets lose to the Bills in Buffalo 22-17. That was one of the few I got wrong. Jets knocked themselves out of the playoff picture. Detroit Lions beat the Bears 24-20 in Chicago. The Ravens lose to Cincinnati in Cincinnati 24-16. The Steelers